few other examples that I've talked about out already, but we already discussed the guidance and R3, so we'll kick through that. The ecosystem, a few other things that I didn't share with you yet. We're going to be doing, when I say we're, the state of Illinois, the Illinois Blockchain Initiative is going to be running a quarterly seminar series. The first topic that we wanted to address was banking digital currency, because we understand how difficult it is for startups or even our more mature startups. It's very difficult for them to be banked. So the idea of all of the audit points that a bank needs to have from a company, normally there's a lot more transparency, or again, perception of transparency in that process. If I was to start a hair salon, I would be able to very clearly say, these are my clients. The bank would say, I don't need to know that much information about your clients because they're getting their hair cut, Jennifer. So if you can show me that you have KYC, know your client, AML, anti-money laundering, I'm going to be very comfortable to let you sit your money, your revenues, your proceeds in my bank. When it comes to banking cryptocurrencies, banks are less comfortable because many of their federal regulators are also less comfortable. And so we recognize that this is actually getting to a point where, as our cryptocurrency startups are growing with success, their success is actually handcuffing them, because they're being told that the higher deposits that they make, the more at risk they are to become unbankable. So this is a very serious problem that we want to talk about more, address, and figure out what we need to do to solve, or if we at a state level can't solve this, how can we ease this and facilitate a larger conversation? So that was targeted to be the first for this quarterly seminar series. We've actually started drilling into this so much, we realize this needs to be a symposium, not just like a panel at a seminar series. So we're in the process of working with Coin Center and Digital Currency Group, and we're going to be putting on essentially what's going to be like a half-day symposium to address this issue. Right now we're targeting for the first week of June, but it's TBD with that first week of June. And again, once this stuff is finalized, I'll make sure that I'm following up with Brooke and Mark and Hannah so you guys can get this information.
Yeah, I've been talking to the communications director at Coin Center, because they also want to do, while they're in town, if that is indeed the meeting they're talking about setting up, that they would also do a meetup. That maybe Jerry Brito would be able to talk to our meetup group as well. So
Are you in contact with Patrick McHenry, the representative, at all? FinTech Innovation Bill?
I'm actually not familiar with that, I have to say. Was Patrick the sponsor of the blockchain task force?
I don't know about that one, but I know like last fall he introduced a FinTech Innovation Bill to try to bring in sandboxing to the U.S.
Yeah.
Like for more open regulation and doing things, and it seems like that would be perfect for this, the overlap. Like to get on this.
No, it's such a great point, because obviously having that regulatory sandbox ties in with one of the things I've been talking about, again, light touch regulation and governance. I will say at the second conference, the FinTech conference on the 26th, we're going to have a nice announcement about steps that we're taking in the interim to bring ourselves closer to that sandbox space. So that would be obviously as it applies to distributed ledger technology, but many others as well. So from a general FinTech perspective, we recognize we need to think about how we're engaging and guiding people about these regulations a bit differently. And we've got an interim solution that we're going to be unveiling. So yeah, awesome. Okay, so we've got the quarterly seminar series, local meetups such as this. The legislative task force that I was just discussing, who I am unfortunately unaware who sponsored it. I don't know that it was McHenry though. We have the Chicago Blockchain Center that I told you we'll be making an announcement about. We have a partnership with the University of Illinois, and I'll come back to that when we talk a little bit more about our pilots, and then the student hackathon that we discussed further. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, in my opinion, because this is how this becomes real, is integrating government and the pilots and proof of concepts that we have identified in our 2017 roadmap. So, first and foremost, the property deed recording. As you know from your time with John Merkovich, this is something that's already happening. We're very fortunate that we have an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement, as John is part of our Illinois Blockchain Initiative, so that we can call ourselves partners to this pilot. So that is the first pilot that the Illinois Blockchain Initiative has underneath its belt. Again, within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I would expect that paper to be coming out on the results thereof. Looking down the line, academic credentialing. We're partnering with the University of Illinois, and there is a gentleman there named Andrew Miller, who was part of, and I hope I don't say this wrong, I believe the Bitcoin core team. No? Thank you, Brooke. Okay.
But he's one of the premier academics in the field.
I'll
for
take
sure.
that.
But he has a great reputation, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So don't want to credential him incorrectly, thank you. But we're incredibly lucky to be working with Andrew and his team on this. So we're looking to initially get credentials on a private distributed ledger. And then we're looking to expand that to transcripts. Obviously, right now the scope of this is UIUC, but the goal here would be all state academic institutions. If you guys aren't aware, there's an incredible amount of fraud that happens in academia. A lot of it is inbound, you know, like as you're applying to colleges or as you're applying to like postgraduate and PhD level courses. There's just a variety of, especially international institutions, that are like cannot be credentialed properly, and so there's a lot of time spent on actually getting to the bottom of our transcripts and credentials accurate. And so being able to just have that be a verified attribute, again, as a part of your identity. And that's really interesting when you start to see these things come together. If you think of Jennifer O'Rourke has an attribute that says, I graduated from undergrad at UIUC, I graduated from postgrad at University of London, and I choose to share that with whomever or whatever I want at my discretion. That's pretty exciting. I can do that for an employer, I can do that for an application for another degree, something like that. So the starting point here is getting them on a ledger, and then looking forward to where we can expand scope. Yeah?
Clear how they're doing that yet?
What's that?
Have they designed the system yet, or is it still in progress?
Still in progress. So this is very, very early days, and then from here on down, these are things that we are planning. So health provider registries. This is something that we are very lucky to be working with a very talented individual. And so Conrad here is someone that we've had the opportunity to spend some time with, Cab and I, and we are working with him to create a health provider registry. And we'll talk about it at a high level, and then once we get a little bit more under our belt, we'll be able to share details with you guys, you know, a little bit down the line. But talking about the problem here, what's the opportunity? Essentially, when you think about how your doctor needs to be credentialed so that you can see your doctor, so that you can have your insurance pay for your doctor's visit, and so that when you see your doctor and when insurance pays for it, they know that your doctor actually is a doctor, and your doctor doesn't have any issues with any of the regulating agencies. So your doctor is not only a doctor, but currently a doctor. These seem like they're very simple things, but when you actually think of these 4 points from a reconciliation perspective, it's a nightmare. And that nightmare equates to a $2 billion industry that health providers have to pay, or else they get fined if they don't have their doctors current on all of those things that I just said. And that needs to be reconciled all the time. So being able to have a singular, immutable ledger to verify this information would be an incredible opportunity for this industry. So we're really excited about that. Moving on, energy credit marketplaces, especially looking at the opportunity for renewable energy credits, or RECs. So the more that renewable energy is used, whether you put solar panels on your house, whether you have a particular type of venting infrastructure within your corporate building, the way in which you're addressing water runoff or water claiming from rain, is an opportunity to create renewable energy credits. And once you have these credits, right now they're paper credits, and they're just literally passed back and forth, traded through secondary markets and brokers. And there's not transparency, there's not immediate access, and there's not an audit trail to them. And so being able to create these renewable energy credits on a marketplace that was on a distributed ledger would be an incredible infrastructure to what clearly is developing as a sizable industry. The last one we're looking at are vital records, such as birth records. And again, when you think about this, this is something that really becomes more of a digitalization effort in as much as it is a distributed ledger placement effort as well. So there's a lot of infrastructure change that happens here. But at the same time, there's a way of picking off a small piece and addressing that. So right now, that's one of the longer poll items that we're looking at for this year, but it's definitely on our roadmap as well. And the other thing that we've done, just quickly to throw this at you, is you'll notice that these 5 proof of concepts kind of hit a variety of different verticals, which we think are important as well. And then the way that we're looking to address them is, as much as you could look at the future state of this opportunity and be like, wow, that's a lot of work to actually transform a system, to lay this infrastructure. The way that we're looking at these is a minimal viable product. So what is the small bite-sized opportunity that we can bite off and successfully execute? And once executed, then evaluate for scaling opportunities. So, please.
Yeah, quick question on the health provider registries. Is the goal to eventually get rid of the reconciliation process at all, or is the plan to kind of streamline it at the moment?
I think the end goal would be to have a singular ledger where it is immutable, and so you don't have to reconcile, you know, your insurer's books versus the doctor's books versus all of that. So to your point, the former is the goal of not having to reconcile as a part of the process. But again, right now, just picking off a smaller piece.
And there's no plans to just use automation for that at the moment.
Well, that's what it is. It's at least the proof of concept is going to involve smart contracts.
Okay.
So the various the licensing boards and facilities and the regulatory agencies at the state can submit small pieces of code that explain how their little facet of the larger registry works. So basically, so if you're a radiologist, the radiology board will be able to submit a little piece of code that says this is how many continuing education credits a radiologist needs to be current in 2017 or whatever. And the main problem you have right now is it all exists, but it's separated into many different departments. And if you as a patient want to know, does your radiologist, are they up to snuff on all their requirements, you would have to talk to 4 different agencies or whatever. And the goal is that there needs to be a central place where people can submit the rules for each different agency and aggregate this data so that you can see at once what the current state is of a radiologist.
Yeah, no, thank you. Okay. So that is it. If you guys have any questions for me, my email's down here. Please feel free to email me, and I've got cards as well, so we can stay in touch. But I hope that in explaining who the Illinois Blockchain Initiative is, and how we designed our approach and what we're doing, I've painted a picture that allows you to envision a state where Illinois is leading the position for the distributed ledger technology, blockchain technology, cryptocurrency technology, because I think with this roadmap and with this strategy, we absolutely can take that leadership position. So thank you so much for having me.
Just as a final note, we have Ray here from the facility, as I discussed in the opening remarks. He's going to give a little info on the facility, and again, if you're interested in a tour, he'll be happy to take you around. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'll get into the more nitty-gritty stuff for the people that actually want to listen to me and walk around the area with me. But what this is, if you weren't aware, this is Pumping Station 1. It's a hackerspace by Lineage. You could also call it a makerspace. Same difference as far as I'm concerned. but it's been around since 2009 as an entity. Started out with 9 people that met in a cafe on Milwaukee Avenue who had been inspired by a visit to the Chaos Communication Camp in Germany that they visited in 2007. And it has since grown into a 450 member-run organization, meaning there's no shares or ownership. It's not a co-op. It's not a it's a corporation in that sense, but it's run by member vote. Board of directors, which I've been on for 3 years, has very little actual power. We have to run every expenditure by the membership for a vote. Things like this, having an unaffiliated group meet here. I'm doing it on my own as the member who is your host. So you're all here as my guests. If any of you misbehave, it would come up and down on my neck. But we give a lot of freedom, a lot of latitude to members to do whatever the heck they want. And so that's what this becomes. It becomes a framework and a space for members to indulge themselves and do what they want. Build things, whether that's artifacts, physical artifacts or idea artifacts or software, based on the idea of you can do just about anything you want as long as there's no serious objection. So there's a lot of interesting philosophical things, but it's also a shared workspace with shared tools, and we'll see that. Membership here, we're the cheapest deal in Chicago, where $40 a month gets you full access to everything. $70 a month gives you a role. $70 a month is our full membership, and that means you get a vote and a little storage cubbyhole. So that's the 15-second or minute and 15-second elevator pitch. And I guess I will now remove myself to the CNC area, the room opposite the foyer, and anybody who wants to go on a tour and see the other stuff, they can come find me there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so anybody who is interested, as we said, Chief O'Neill's is 1 block down Elston here. We're going to have an outdoor space, so you go all the way through.